Hi, this is Sally's Book Talk, where we bring you the best global books every day. Today we're exploring the book, The Harvard Nonfiction Writing Guide. You might ask, what's Harvard's connection to this book? Actually, Harvard's Nieman Foundation hosts a 3-day conference every fall focusing on nonfiction writing, attended by thousands of top authors and editors, from Pulitzer-winning New Yorker writers to Hollywood screenwriters. This book compiles insights from these experts' presentations. Carefully created, it contains 91 essays from 51 masters, revealing how to craft compelling stories. First, let's define nonfiction writing. Stories generally fall into two categories: fiction and nonfiction. Fiction includes novels and screenplays, imaginary narratives created by authors. Nonfiction also tells stories, but strictly based on real events, often called narrative journalism. Editor Mark Kramer organized these 91 essays into 9 thematic chapters. Each chapter tackles specific writing challenges. We'll focus on 3 key questions from the book. Understanding these will give you fundamental storytelling insights. The 3 questions: how to find compelling topics, how to structure stories, how to build scenes. Let's start with the first question, finding worthwhile topics. Essentially, how to determine if a story deserves telling. First, assess a topic's emotional value. Does it resonate with readers? Different topics have varying emotional weights. For example, a news story about a stolen car with a baby in backseat immediately grabs attention through our biological instinct to protect offspring. Even when you divert the narrative to other details, readers' attention will still follow. At this point, you probably aren't surprised anymore. Why do people always love stories about romance, family, and personal growth? Because these topics directly address what matters most to people and create emotional resonance. Should we abandon topics with low emotional value? Not necessarily. It just demands superior writing skills. Take Gay Talese's fame and obscurity about New York's Verrazano Bridge, a seemingly dry topic. Does this subject appear emotionally flat? Talese compensated through masterful storytelling techniques. He didn't just describe the bridge, but chronicled workers' lives and stories. He conducted sociological studies on the bridge's urban impact. Finally, he documented how ordinary lives were transformed by this structure. This multidimensional approach made an engineering project fascinating. Beyond emotional value, how else do we evaluate topics? The second crucial factor, accessibility. Can you access key individuals involved? First, reaching central figures in the story. Second, gaining subjects' trust to obtain authentic information. Will they let you inspect their closet or refrigerator during interviews? Can you observe their commutes, meetings, or attend court hearings and funerals? If not, find alternative approaches through their social circles. How to gain such access? It largely depends on personal charisma and courage. Pulitzer finalist Ted Conover initially planned to write about correctional officers' lives for his prison story. But New York's Department of Correction refused his request to follow a new correctional officer. So he made a bold decision. He applied to become a correctional officer himself and entered the prison system. He spent 10 months there, living alongside officers and inmates, ultimately obtaining the story he wanted. To write compelling stories, you must immerse yourself in subjects' lives and earn their trust. You need to observe like a fly on the wall, capturing subjects' actions without influencing them. While maintaining trust, stay hyper-alert to recognize significant moments as they occur. But what if crucial events already happened? Use photos or recordings to reconstruct past events and observe subjects' interactions with others too. Does this give you ideas about finding good topics? Now let's examine the second question, story structure. While films use 3-act structures, nonfiction has its own foundational framework with 3 layers. First layer, narrative. What actually happened? Second layer, emotion. Protagonists' feelings about events. Third layer, meaning. What lessons we can learn. For example, writing about a cancer patient. First, clearly narrate her diagnosis, battle, and outcome, completing the narrative layer. Then make readers emotionally invested through empathy, the emotional layer. Finally, extract universal truths readers can apply. The meaning layer. While narrative and emotion are manageable. How to handle meaning. Don't clumsily state morals. That feels amateurish. Instead, delve into characters' inner worlds. Let meaning emerge through characters' own epiphanies. How to capture these moments of realization. Conflict complicates characters but doesn't guarantee epiphany. In the cancer story, the epiphany should be overcoming fear, not receiving diagnosis. Capturing this moment creates narrative meaning. Through this story we learn, while fate can't be changed, we conquer it through courage and dignity. This demonstrates the 3 essential layers: facts, emotions, meaning. Beyond this framework, numerous techniques need mastering. The book emphasizes crafting compelling openings. Facing blank screens terrifies writers. Many experience this paralysis. After 30 unproductive minutes, you might just watch movies instead. This struggle stems from unclear core themes. Every story is a journey with destination, its central theme. Like knowing Rome is the destination before choosing transportation. Start by establishing this thematic foundation. Author Brown's example. A woman attacked en route to abortion clinic bore the child and sued the government for support. When discussing with editors, they asked about the story's essence. He initially described it as woman suing government. The editor corrected, "No, this is about choice." Understanding this thematic core unlocks the writing process. Now, do you grasp how to structure stories effectively? Let's now examine the third question, building story scenes. Life unfolds through scenes. Mastering scene construction is crucial for writers. There are 2 approaches to building scenes: direct observation or reconstructing others' experiences. Regardless of approach, effective scenes require key elements. First, precision. Ensure 100% factual accuracy of details. When describing a car crash, omit uncertain details rather than fabricating. Second, atmosphere. Incorporate sensory details, sounds, smells, temperatures. Don't just describe vehicle collision mechanics. Add crying victims, gasoline smell, burnt odors, chaotic movements. Third element, Dialogue. Static descriptions of objects. People create lifeless scenes. Include conversations between doctors, police, bystanders to animate the scene. Fourth emotion. Make readers imagine their own reactions. Interview victims about their experiences. Feelings to enhance empathy. First-hand observation makes scene building easier. How to reconstruct scenes when direct access isn't possible. The author shares an example from his book on England's late 18th century abolition movement. A pivotal May 1787 meeting where 12 strategists planned anti-slavery campaigns in a bookstore. However, the only surviving record of this meeting is a single handwritten page. It simply recorded the date, attendees list, and their final resolutions. How to vividly recreate this pivotal moment. He researched 2 attendees' personal archives and reconstructed their appearances using portraits. Studied period newspapers to understand the bookstore's architectural details. Visited the original bookstore site. Though the building was gone, its facing tavern remained. Researched 18th century printing presses to recreate authentic bookstore smells. The final narrative wove multiple sources, documents, newspapers, memoirs, biographies. These details transformed historical events into immersive experiences. Let's summarize. The Harvard Guide to Nonfiction Writing. Compiling insights from 51 writers, it teaches nonfiction storytelling techniques. Key questions addressed. How to identify compelling topics. First criterion, assessed a topic's emotional resonance. Second, secure access to key subjects and gain their trust. Regarding structure, the 3-layer framework. Layer 1. Narrative. Factual. Layer 2. Emotion. Protagonist's psychological journey. Layer 3. Meaning. Universal truths emerging from the story. Scene building techniques. Direct observation or reconstruction. Essential elements. Precision. Atmosphere. Dialogue. Emotional resonance. After reading this guide, you'll grasp nonfiction writing fundamentals. If you want to learn writing in your spare time, just dive in and give it a try. That's our wrap-up for this book. Find keynotes below the audio. See you tomorrow.